السلام عليكم جميعا. صوتي واضح؟ تمام. أول شي شكرا لحضوركم اليوم. معكم رباب العكش، سايبر سيكيورتي GRC انجينير في سايبر سبيس. اليوم إن شاء الله راح نركز على ال Personal Data Protection Law أو ال PDPL. إن شاء الله راح تكون سيشن سريعة وhelpful للجميع. الأجندة for today إن شاء الله we're gonna start مع ال introduction to the PDPL. Then we're gonna know more about the scope of the PDPL, what its current obligations, know more about the data subject rights, and have like a brief comparison between the PDPL and the GDPR. Then we're gonna move into the current challenges for implementing the PDPL. Finally, we're gonna discuss the penalties for non-compliance for organization who fail to comply with the PDPL. And at the end, we can have like 10 to 15 minutes to answer all your questions. Starting with what is the PDPL? The PDPL who is the first ever comprehensive data protection law within Saudi Arabia. It has been enforced by SADAYA, which is the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority. Who's the primary regulatory body that will get enforce and oversee the implementations of the PDPL. The Personal Data Protection Law, it has come into effect since last September, given like a 1-year grace period for organization to adopt their practices and get compliant with the PDPL. This period has ended this September. The primary objectives of the PDPL is to protect the individual's privacy regarding their personal data and to regulate like how organization they collect, process, disclose, and retain such information. It has outlined like extensive requirements related to the processing principles, the rights of the data subjects, the obligations of an organization in handling the personal data, and mechanism for cross-border data transfer, and like it has also like specified specific penalties for the organization who fail to comply with the PDPL. We're going to know more about each of these requirements in the upcoming slides. Since we talk about the PDPL, the main objectives of the PDPL is to protect the personal data. Currently, you have like a specific difficulties and defining like what's actually considered as a personal data. Personal data is like any information, regardless of its like origin or format, that could identify an individual specifically, or like could enable identification, either directly or indirectly. This may include like the names, the personal identification numbers, the phone numbers, credit card numbers, and other like other kind of personal information. The scope of the PDPL, it actually is applicable to both the public and private organization who process personal data and like sensitive personal data of individuals residing within Saudi Arabia, regardless of the method used for processing this kind of information. Additionally, if like a foreign organization process personal data of individuals residing within Saudi Arabia, the PDPL can also like applicable to them, and they should be compliant with. So the PDPL has outlined like a specific key obligation that organization they must adhere to, uh, and establish like a several responsibilities for data controllers. So before processing like any kind of personal data, organizations are required to ensure that the data uh, being collected is actually accurate, is complete, it's relevant to the collection like processing purposes. They must like also adhere to the data protection principles, such as like limitation on the data collection, that you're going to only collect what is necessary to fulfill your requirements and nothing more. Like ensuring like specific security measures are in place, maintaining the accountability and the security of the data being collected. So in this slide and in the upcoming few slides, we're going to know more about the specific requirements or like obligations for the PDPL. So we're going to go into each one of them in details and know more about each one of them. So starting with the consent requirements. So the PDPL mandates that organization must not process personal data without obtaining like an owner consent. That means that the data subjects retain the right to withdraw their consent at any time, and importantly, like consent cannot be like used as a prerequisite for receiving a service unless it's directly related to the processing activity for which the consent was obtained. So what does that actually mean? For example, if an organization needs a consent to process a data for marketing campaign, it cannot make a consent requirement for accessing a different service, such as like a product purchase. So this right actually, or this principle actually protect individuals from being forced to give a consent in order to receive a basic service for benefit that should be available regardless of their consent status. And the PDPL has also like outlined specific scenarios in which the consent is not required on them. Like some of them is when the processing is mandated by law or as part of the prior agreement. Also, like if the public entity requires processing for security, or like for security purposes, or like if the data is being collected for like scientific or like research, unless like specific legal steps has been taken already. So moving to the privacy policy requirements, the DPL also like mandates the organization to adopt a personal data privacy policy and make this policy accessible to the data subject before collecting their information. So this policy should include like different details, such as the purpose of the data collection, the types of the personal data being collected, the methods of the collection, storage practices going to be used, the processing procedures, the extraction methods of the data, and the rights of the data subjects really regarding their data. So during the data collection process, the data controller or the organization should inform the data subject of different key elements, such as the legal or like the practical justification for collecting their data. Also, like their rights as the data subject, the purpose of the collection, and along like with an assurance that the data being collected will not going to be processed inconsistently with the stated purposes. So moving into the last one, which is the security requirements. So the PDPL like stabulate the organizations that collect personal information to implement like appropriate organizational, like administrative and technical measures to protect the personal data being collected. So this will can help ensure that the data remains secure from unauthorized access or like breaches and other potential risk throughout the data collection lifecycle, the data lifecycle. So another key elements of the PDPL obligations is regarding the data breach requirements. So the PDPL has stated that organization they must notify the regulatory authority within 72 hours of becoming aware of the data breach. Additionally, like the data controls are required to provide like a detailed analysis of the breach, including the step being taken in order to prevent such kind of cases in the future incidents. So also like if the breach poses a significant risk to the personal data of the individuals, the data controller should like notify those who are affected. Secondly, we have the data protection officer requirements or the DPO requirements. So, so in order to ensure that compliance with the PDPL, SADAYA has established a specific rules for appointing a DPO. It's applicable for organizations who handle like sensitive personal data in a large volume and like process large volume of personal data. So the DPO could be like an official or like a employee or even like an external contractor of the controller. So this provides like organization the flexibility to choose the most suitable option for them. So the DPOs will going to be responsible for like many tasks. This include like developing or like reviewing internal data protection policies, assessing the data breaches, response plan, training the staff, advising on compliance, and like ensuring adherence to the PDPL. So this for sure mandates that the appointed DPO should be like academically qualified and expose like specific expertise on the data protection and risk management and data breach handling. So finally, we have the data breach data protection impact assessment. So the PDPL requires organization to assess the potential consequences of processing personal data for any product or like service. So this assessment is like a crucial in specific scenarios or like cases such as when you're like processing sensitive data or like when you want to use like new technologies for processing personal data. When you like collect different kind of personal information. So these kind of assessment should include at minimum the purpose and the legal pieces, description of like the processing activities that we're going to take place, including like the type and the source of the personal data involved, and like any entities to whom the data will be disclosed to. Should like also have like an overview of the scope, identifying the types of the personal data and the geographical area covered. It should like include like a thorough analysis of the potential impact, and if there's like any identified risk, it should also like include a specific mitigation plans in order to prevent or like to mitigate the identified risk. And finally, we have the record of the processing activities is actually like another key elements of the PDPL applications. So under the PDPL, organizations are required to maintain like a detailed record of their processing activities. These records must be kept throughout the processing period and for an additional 5 years after the completion of these activities. So these records should include like the essential information such as the contact details of the organization, the purpose of the processing personal data, description of the categories of the data subject involved, like any parties to whom personal data has been disclosed, like the expected duration for which the personal data will be retained, and like whether the personal data has been or will be transferred outside the Saudi Kingdom. Next, we have the vendor assessment or like third party processing requirements. So PDPL also like mandates the organization when selecting a processing entity, they must choose an entity that provides the necessary guarantees for complying with the provisions of the PDPL. And finally, we have the cross-border data transfer requirements. So the PDPL allows for transfer for personal data outside the kingdom, but it's like stipulate that the recipient country, they must have like a regulation ensuring an appropriate level of protection of our personal data. SADAI is responsible for evaluating the countries, international organization, and specific sectors to determine whether transfers can occur. So another a very important aspect of the PDPL is the data subject rights. So the PDPL has covered like 6 rights of the data subject, and we're gonna go through each one of them right now. So the PDPL is many data protection regulations worldwide. It guarantees specific rights to all data subjects, ensuring that they maintain control over their personal data once it has been collected. So let's take a closer look at these rights guaranteed by the PDPL. So the first one is the right to know. This ensures that the data subject have the right to be informed about the data controller contact detail, the exact reason for the data collection, the method used for this collection, and whether their data will be shared or sold. Next is the right to access. That means that the data subject have the right to access their personal data, which allows for individual can request to see what information has been collected about them. Then we have the right to request the correction. This right allows data subject to request correction to any personal data that's incomplete or inaccurate or outdated. Ensuring the accuracy of the personal data is vital for both the individuals and organizations as well. The right to request instructions is another significant right. So data subject could request the deletion of their personal data for various reasons, such as when withdrawing their consents or when the data is no longer necessary. Additionally, there is the right to limit or restrict the processing. Data subject could limit or refuse the processing of their personal information in special cases. And lastly, we have the right to data portability. So data subjects have the right to obtain their personal data in a clear and editable format and request is transferred to another data controller. So this right enhances individuals' control over their own data. So moving to the PDPL versus the GDPR. The PDPL and GDPR is actually linked terms together. They both aim to protect the individuals' personal data and ensure their rights. But however, there are some key similarities and differences between them. So in the GDPR, which has set as a global standard for data protection, grants a repository rights to the subjects, fostering transparency and controls over personal data. The PDPL have a similar concept, but it's tailored to the context of within Saudi Arabia. So we're gonna highlight some of the main differences between the GDPR and the PDPL. So mainly, the regulatory authority for the PDPL and GDPR is different from each other. The PDPL is actually SADAIA, or the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority, has the full responsibility to oversee the compliance and the enforcement of the PDPL within Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, GDPR has been enforced by various national data protection authorities across the European Union members with a more collaborative framework than the PDPL. Another difference between the PDPL and the GDPR is the data of the deceased individuals. So the PDPL includes the personal data of the deceased individuals within its scope, allowing for protection of such kind of information. However, the GDPR excludes deceased persons from its protections, as it focuses only on the living individuals. Finally, both the PDPL and the GDPR have defined different definitions for the data subject. The PDPL, at one hand, it extends the definition of the data subject to include a representative or like a legal guardians of individuals whose data is processed. The GDPR, on the other hand, defines the data subject strictly as living individuals without extending to representative in this manner. So the PDPL is like emerging like a new regulatory to implement some of the organization like facing challenges in implementing and like changing their practices to be like a PDPL compliance. One of the main challenges facing organization nowadays is the awareness and understanding. So while the PDPL represents like a significant step to safeguard the personal data in Saudi Arabia, many organizations often struggle with awareness and understanding of its requirements. So, for example, many organizations they don't know like if the PDPL is actually applicable to them or not. They said that we're only like collecting like normal person information such as the first name, last name, phone number, or like date of birth, for example. So they don't know like whether the BDPL is actually applicable to them or not. So this kind of like misunderstanding it play it makes like or like it creates like difficulties for the organization to implement and like to change their practices into the BDPL. Secondly, is the integration with the existing policies. So the BDPL have a specific requirements regarding the data protection and data requirements. So the organization like mostly like facing challenges integrating the BDPL practices into their current data protection policies. So this might like require like a significant changes to their current practices. Additionally, across border data transfer. It adds like another dimension of complexity, especially for organizations that operate on an international scale. So this creates like a specific burden for them. Finally, is the data subject rights. Ensuring that the these subjects are not like only aware of their rights, but also like able to exercise them effectively, present like another layer of the complexity. Organization must provide accessible information and mechanism for individuals to make requests regarding practicing their rights of the as a data subject. Lastly, we have the penalties for non-compliance. The BDPL has tabulated specific penalties for those who did not comply with the BDPL. So the penalties for like disclosing or publishing sensitive personal data may include imprisonment for up to 2 years or like fine not exceeding 3 million for both organizations and individuals. For violations other than the provision of the BDPL, penalties include warning notice or like fine not exceeding 5 million. And now we've reached to the end of our webinar. I hope you find it like helpful and it answers your questions. We're gonna have like 10 to 15 minutes to answer your questions. You can write all the questions you got in the chat and we're gonna answer all of them one by one. And I'll put my email address here. You can contact me to get like a better consultation regarding the BDPL.
Okay, thank you very much for everyone. We start receiving right now the questions. Uh, we will start answering them. Also, thank you for everyone in the YouTube that been watch us. Raise it. Mr. Khalid, yes, you may speak.
Hello,
Hello, yes.
hello.
Yeah,
Is
we can hear.
my microphone being heard?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
I do have a question. One of GDPR's articles suggests that some employees in an organization should have some training to know about data protection. Is that awareness and training similar or a requirement in PDPL as well?
Okay, you want me to answer, or you will answer? Oh, okay, so regarding for the training, yes, it's mandatory and it's very important to have training. It's like a sessions for awareness. It's based on 3 levels: the custodian level, and also for the data owner level, as well as all the employees. So each of them, they have certain levels, and you need to do some awareness for them. So you make sure, uh, I mean, the policy is being, I mean, practices in the best way. Is that Mr. Khalid? Okay, Mr. Zashin, yes. Mr. Zashin Hassan, okay. Mr. Ahmed,
السلام عليكم.
Alaikum Assalam. Yes,
Thank you so much for your
you are.
presentation. I have two questions. The first one, is there any guideline to implement this new regulation? The second thing, is there any يعني interact between this policy and this regulation and this NCA, the data compliance? And thank you.
Okay. Okay, just a small note here. The people who watching us on YouTube, there is no, I mean, there are no interact with the microphone over there. You can write your question in the chat so we can see your questions and we can answer it. This is regarding for you, Mr. Basim, that you are asking in the YouTube. Regarding for the interact between the compliance, yes, it is there. Okay, and there are like the big parts. Like if we see the similarity between the data classification that between the NCA and also the PDPL, it's there. But whenever you go to the PDPL, it's more detailed. It's more informations we can do. I mean, to have it over there. Uh, there are a lot of things. It might be also interact, but still it's not the same. Okay, between the NCA and the BTPL, there are technologies has been matched sometime between us, between both. Whenever we're talking about the I mean, the data protection, we talk about the sharing point between the cybersecurity department and the data department. The cybersecurity department, they will make sure the accessibility for those data. They will manage the users and those access. And from the data side, they will manage focusing on the data, how it's structured, where are they, what is the most, I mean, let's say, criticals based on the PDPL, based on the, for example, children's information, where are they located, and those. You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Ahmed Abdullah. Mr. Ahmed? Mr. Ahmed Abdullah? Okay, there are questions here on from Mr. Basim. It's, I mean, one of the big questions here about it's regarding for the question says it's regarding the data subject right. It is 5 rights only in the PDPL, the law itself, and I think there are more rights on the other resource. Let me say about the rights. In the PDPL, usually it's give you the minimum rights, like it is they are 5, okay, but there are nothing illegal like to go with the more rights for the owners of those informations or for owners of those data. For example, if we go to the DAMA, they have like 8 rights, but they are not interact actually. Like if we match them and map them with the PDPL, we will not see any like less, we will see more. If we usually in the policies, if we have a more information, more rights, more things, it's not going to I mean to be like interact with the law or the compliance. Let's say, for example, because let's say in the first, like the policy usually it's everything's legal until it's been illegal. There it's mentioned it's illegal in some things, or it's being controlled in some other things. If we come into the rights, for example, there is I mean some of the organization we see, they give like them like people who has the information over there, they give them like 10 and 12 rights for them. They can like to watch, to control, to get reports or such and such. It's kind of give more information and give more maturity level. Also, you can go for those regulators in the organization.
I might add something on Mr. Ahmed question. Right, the PDPL has only like defined 5 that subject rights, but if you go to the regulation guidance for implementing the PDPL, you're gonna find it like unexpectedly defined in there. The presentation was like more like a general overview to cover all the materials that has been mentioned. So, but it's not like a copy-paste from what has been mentioned in the PDPL or not. So, yeah, that's what I want to add.
Yes, and also there are a couple of the questions here asking about like the data when I mentioned as a customer or what. Usually it's not just the customer, they have a personal data. You're like, for example, if there are third party, you have the information about them, like national ID, names, addresses, whatever, things that we're going to mention or going to identify them easily. CCTV cameras, one of the things people, they are not recognize. It's one of the things for the PDPL. Also for employees that you have, HR, they have also some more information about each employee. And also we have the customer, because the issue always we face whenever we come to consult any companies or organization, we see all of them, they focusing on the customer. Yes, they are like 60%, 70% of your data, but still you have other side for the data. For example, third party, your employee, yourself, other things, it might be considered as a PDPL. CCTVs, sometimes the type of the data, sometimes it's not just a written information. It's might you have like some pictures, you have some videos, you save the CCTV cameras, you save some of the logs for some customer or employees, like you track them like in the IP number inside their homes, whatever. Those are considered as PDPL also. Okay, I think we will answer each of the questions one by one. I think you will receive like in the in the application somehow you will receive all answers. I know some people they are angry we speak English, but because we have very big audience coming from non-Arabic speakers, so we need to go with the English to maximize our knowledge. We have some people who's watching us in the YouTube from some places in the world. We will have another webinars is coming up on I think next week. It will be in Arabic, and also we go one by one for all the informations, all the domains one by one. Also, there is one of our lawyer. He will be there in one of the webinars that will we will go into talk about the PDPL from law perspective, what's going on the court right now, cases, it's how it's been raised against the PDPL. So it's going to give you all more understand for the risk that it's been there, and also we're trying to share maximum knowledge that we have. Okay, so thank you for our speaker. Thank you for everyone for attendance. Keep in touch with us. Everyone can get from us free consultations for the PDPL or for the data privacy. We are happy to assist anyone. Thank you very much for everyone. Have a great day.